We watched a little bit of a double feature. It's a little bad boy
A
right
thematic double feature.
here. Yeah, I guess so.
We're back with 2 more Nick Cage movies for all our Nick Cage fans out there, dude.
Yeah.
We took a break last week, but now we're back on the Nick Cage train, baby.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? It was not disappointing.
No, it was not.
We watched Face Off. I got this nice little double feature Blu-ray here. We watched Face Off, directed by John Woo, starring John Travolta and Nicolas Cage. And then we watched Snake Eyes, which came out the next year in 1998, directed by Brian De Palma, also starring Nicolas Cage. And this is a little treat right here. This is a little treat. This is a little fun little present for us.
Yeah, we gotta treat ourselves, right? You know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not that familiar with John Woo filmography. I know he's put out some amazing action flicks. Change the Game.
Oh yeah,
which is like Hong Kong. But he's from Hong Kong, right?
I'll do a little. You talk about what you want to talk about first, and then I'm going to introduce John Woo because I've seen like a lot of his movies.
Face Off, I know the premise of, which is essentially at the beginning, John Travolta is this crazy assassin criminal just out of his mind, full blown Nick Cage in this movie.
No, Nick Cage is the terrorist.
Yeah,
you said John Travolta was.
Oh,
which is, I mean, what can we say? Like, this is like what the whole fucking movie is, dude.
Yeah,
basically. Who is the terrorist? Who is the good guy? Who is the terrorist?
Yeah, basically.
Who knows, dude?
I know.
It answers both. Yeah. It is the same. They both are.
Yeah. So, but basically, one of them, John Travolta starts off as this, cop, CIA agent, and he's trying to stop this terrorist, Nicolas Cage, who's crazy, bigger than life, acting persona, like insane. The intro is John Travolta's on a carousel with his son, slow-mo shot, and Nick Cage is just at the end of the park in broad daylight with a sniper rifle, shoots on the bullet, goes through John Travolta and hits his son and kills his son. And John Travolta survives. So he's got a revenge story here. This is personal.
And it cuts 6 years later.
6 years later, and he's like, we're narrowing in on Nick Cage. We got him. There's this really cool airplane chase, and John Travolta finally is able to best Nick Cage.
Yeah, he's been chasing this guy for the past 6 years. This like the most wanted terrorist in the world. Mm-hmm. He's a really respected terrorist in the world, as we see later on when he like goes to prison and stuff. Yeah. But continue on.
But so essentially what happens is the idea is Nick Cage, before he was apprehended, planted a bomb somewhere in Los Angeles. Super deadly bomb, nerve gas, explosion, everything, right? In order to get that information, the only other person that would know that is Nick Cage's brother, who's in prison. The most ridiculous premise ever. The CIA has found a way to take the face off of another person and put it on someone else. And super realistic. Not plastic surgery, just completely turned into another person. So John Travolta then has to turn into Nick Cage. Eventually Nick Cage's character wakes up and turns into John Travolta, so then they're swapped, right? And the best thing about this movie is you have two crazy actors that can put on crazy performances, being able to play this crazy terrorist. Yeah. And being able to play this sympathetic CIA agent.
Yeah, their roles switch 20-30 minutes into the picture. So when John Travolta is able to capture the terrorist played by Nick Cage, right? And then he brings him in, and their plan is to put Nick Cage's face on John Travolta's face so we can infiltrate a prison, because Nick Cage's brother / partner in this whole terroristic plot that they do is in the prison. So they want Nick Cage to go undercover. They want John Travolta to go undercover as Nick Cage to penetrate this prison and get information on where this bomb is. Mm-hmm. But during that period when he's in prison, John Travolta wakes up and takes Nick Cage wakes up, takes John Travolta's face, puts it on his face, and escapes this hospital prison place where he's supposed to be held, and then starts to like wreak havoc.
Yeah, and also, the most obvious setup in the world. This is so undercover that no one else can know that John Travolta is going to go undercover as this terrorist, right? Yeah. Maybe 5 people know. Of course, when the terrorist, Nick Cage, wakes up, takes John Travolta's face, becomes him, kills everyone that knows. So now the CIA agent is stuck in prison with no one knowing that he's not actually this terrorist, Nick Cage.
Yeah. So Nick Cage is stuck in prison. the cop is stuck in prison looking like as the terrorist, and John Travolta is actually Nick Cage in real life, wreaking havoc and takes his role as a police commissioner or whatever, and like infiltrates his own life, like fucks his wife and shit.
Yeah, creepy with his daughter and stuff. Yeah.
And then eventually what happens is Nick Cage is kind of a fugitive. So Nick Cage is like a fugitive because he escapes the prison and he has to prove the fact that he's actually the police commissioner, where Nicolas Cage is running around with John Travolta's face.
Yeah.
Like pretending to be the commissioner and like taking advantage of that fact. And he's also he has to chase down Nick Cage. So it's like a cat and mouse.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Cage is trying to prove that he's actually the good guy, whereas John Travolta is trying to chase him down and take advantage of everything. It's a nice cat and mouse movie where there's plenty of great action sequences in it, you know, and also just the fact that there's some really trippy moments where you're like thinking like, oh fuck, like he's actually him dealing with this situation right now. Yeah. And it's just like a trippy little like science fiction action. It's not even a little. It's a big action movie, science fiction.
Fucking crazy performances from these two actors, and I love that, you know, because they're both like kind of have this reputation for being like kind of Al Pacino-ish with their acting, you know, getting like really big and like reading line deliveries just like kind of in a really unique way.
Yeah, well, like you were saying, so in the beginning of the movie, when John Travolta was playing that role of the down and out cop, traumatized cop, you were kind of saying how, oh, I don't really know if John Travolta really plays his character well.
Yeah.
You know? And then when he transforms, he becomes a totally different person. And then you're like, oh, this is like the John Travolta that like, the charming, like, Grease John Travolta that like we love. And like, no, you know what I mean? He's just, you're looking handsome. You're a handsome motherfucker.
Yeah,
whatever, you know?
Yeah.
But like, Nicolas Cage, I think he tops John Travolta, dude.
Yeah, Nicolas Cage.
Like, he just takes it to a whole new level,
yeah.
bro.
But he just has something about him, you know, where he can just play crazy. There's this scene, he just has so much fun with acting, you know, and just like his facial stuff is just so funny. But then also when it gets to like serious moments, serious confessionals like with his wife and stuff like that, he like delivers those so well. It's so believable. You're like, this is the dude. This is the CIA agent. I believe that.
Yeah,
you know?
And the juxtaposition, like he's like the yin to his yang, because Nicolas Cage is a very hedonistic player out here and like a violent drug addict player out here. Yeah. And he's hitting on like fucking nuns and shit. And there's that shot where he like touches the girl's ass and he's like, ah! Yeah. In the beginning.
Yeah, that's so weird, dude. It's bizarre.
So funny. And then John Travolta is the counterpart where he's like a good family guy. He's like trying to raise his family. Like his daughter's like, you know, kind of going down the wrong. He has like his own problems and his son died and they're like reeling from the trauma of that.
Yeah.
And
he's a busy husband, but he loves his family. He loves his wife, you know, and he loves his son, and that you can tell the relationship that, because there's a part in it where the terrorist reads her diary as John Travolta. He's like, oh, he doesn't take me out to dinner. He doesn't do all this stuff. Then once he puts on a dinner for her and tries to woo her over, it's like you can see the relationship they have with one another it goes beyond anything that's hedonistic. It goes beyond anything that's like flashy or glamorous. It's this bond they have between each other that's like Nick Cage can't get other than with his brother, right?
Yeah, I think Nick Cage really tops John Travolta in this, because at first he's like an outlandish Nicolas Cage character, and then when he plays the when he plays the cop, he's like so desperate in it, and he's like, I love you, like, oh my god, like doing all this shit, and like I just like he's so good, dude. Nick Cage is so fucking good.
He really is, dude. He's really good in this.
Yeah.
You could say, you know, the worlds could be swapped either way, you know? And it would still be a good movie. But I think Nick Cage, like, he really blows up in this movie,
Yeah. I want to go into John Woo for a sec. So, John Woo, pioneer of the action, shoot 'em up, chase, fucking guys in suits. Obviously influenced by Jean-Pierre Melville, because he mentions, like, Little Samurai is, like, one of his favorite movie.
That's so cool, yeah.
With like Lawrence of Arabia and something else. You know, John Woo got to start in like Hong Kong cinema. He's a Hong Kong director, and he made these crazy action movies that are even crazier than Face Off. Like the action sequences in his Hong Kong movies are actually crazier, and I think they're actually better than the ones in Face Off. Even though he had like a way smaller budget, his movies like A Better Tomorrow, Hard Boiled, The Killer, like Hard Boiled is insane. Like he has like these long tracking shots, just crazy action, just people shooting each other up that go on for like 10 minutes straight, and like the killer is just like bullet, 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 like fucking shoot him up. Crazy action scenes that I don't think he's able to pull off when it comes to like a Hollywood blockbuster. Because I don't know what happens when a director goes from like these Hong Kong Asian crazy movies to like Hollywood blockbusters. Like I'm saying, the action is great in Face Off, but there's like some sort of like bottleneck that happens with Hollywood blockbusters where the action isn't as crazy as when they did it in like Hong Kong. And a comparison I like to make is that the Raid 1 and the Raid 2 have the craziest fighting action scenes of all time. Like that's like the state of the art when it comes to like martial arts action shit.
Yeah.
And then when those same guys get hired to do like action in like a John Wick movie, for some reason it's not as good.
Yeah.
It's not as like visceral. It's like has like this Hollywood gloss to it, and it just doesn't like work as well. And those budgets are like 10 times, 20 times more than the movies that they made in like Singapore or Indonesia. And I just don't know what it is that kind of, and with the John Woo movies, I feel the same way. I feel like his action movies that he did in Hong Kong are way more visceral. They're 10 times like crazier than the actual movies that he did in America. Even though the budget, he had like way more of a budget. I don't know what the change is with that.
I think it's the passion, dude. I think it's two things. I think it's the passion people have when they have a low budget. They have to get creative. They have to think out of the box, and they have a fire under their ass to make something that they enjoy, right? I think when you go over to Hollywood, there's all this money involved and a lot more pressure and a lot more hands-on.
Yeah.
You don't have that passion to prove yourself. Suddenly, it's this like pressure to prove yourself. Yeah. It's not passion. The more hands-on, the more the picture changes. You know, suddenly it's not all about action. Suddenly it's about how would John Travolta feel? You know, like how can we make this a character picture instead of an action flick?
Yeah, that's very Hollywood.
Yeah.
It's very, very Hollywood, this movie, compared to his other, Hong Kong stuff. And then what's interesting is that he made this movie with Nicolas Cage, and then he directed this, and then he directed Mission Impossible 2. And when we get to Snake Eyes, Brian De Palma also... Mission Impossible 1. And this is like his, this is like an interesting era, because also the same year as that Face Off came out, Con Air came out. Yeah. So we think about the trajectory of Nick Cage's career, like he did like those art house, like Leaving Las Vegas stuff, and then he came back and did like action movies and stuff. But I think just like an interesting time in his career. He was doing a lot of big movies at this point in time.
But also, it looks like he's having fun with these movies, you know? Like, I don't know. I just always say that, but that really resonates with me when you see, like, an actor, like, really having fun with it and not afraid to, like, put on makeup or look stupid on camera. You know, like, I feel like so many actors nowadays would be like, I'm not going to do that. That's going to make me look bad. Yeah. Nick Cage is never like that. He's like, all right, but what if I, like, up it even more? You know? And there's something about that I really, like, respect. He has fun with making movies.
And John Woo definitely. This movie has John Woo style. It is a John Woo movie for sure. Like it has all of his trademarks, the doves and the slow mo and the standoffs and stuff. But like when we watch, we're gonna have to watch like a Hong Kong movie, because I think if you watch like Hard Boiled or The Killer, you're really gonna be blown away, dude.
Well, I've seen Hard Boiled before.
Okay, yeah. So if we watch we need to watch a John Woo movie for the show, because when you watch The Killer, you're like, holy fuck, how is this action scene still going on? Yeah, still going on. Yeah. Like it's insane, and you kind of get that with like the boat chase in the end.
Dude, the boat chase is sick.
The boat chase is crazy, bro.
Yeah, probably the best boat chase I've ever seen.
Yeah. No, it's just insane, like topping it all off with all the explosions, the boat flying in the air and then falling out of the sky. Yeah. Like with the boat crashing down and just blowing up. Like the speedboat shit. I definitely want to get more into, like, we should definitely watch a John Woo.
Let's do it,
movie, because I think I do prefer those movies more.
Last thing I want to say about Face Off is fucking the terrorist, Nick Cage, John Travolta, whoever is playing him, whatever, probably one of the biggest kill counts I've ever seen, dude. Yeah. He kills so many fucking people in this movie. It's actually crazy.
Yeah. And there's the moments where it's like the action's so ridiculous that it's like bad but good. Yeah. You know? Like it's just so ridiculous. Everything in this movie is ridiculous. Yeah. Yeah, this movie cost like $80 million, but it made like $200 million. It was like a massive hit. Yeah, and it was inspired, like the screenplay was inspired by this movie from 1946, this classic crime thriller called White Heat with James Cagney. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's basically like the same thing about this criminal that goes undercover, or this cop that goes undercover to infiltrate this gang, and he goes into a prison and he has to earn the trust a mafia boss by like saving his life in prison, so he earns the trust, so then he can get into it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is a good movie. I like that movie a lot too. White Heat, it's great. James Cagney, legend, classic Hollywood legend. I just like the things that stand out are like the trippy aspects of the actual face swapping, where you have to remind yourself like, oh shit, that's actually him, John Travolta, in his face, and you have to kind of like, there's situations in the movie where it gets really trippy when you have to think about when they. And there's that point where they finally meet for the first time with their faces swapped, and they have to like they're trying to kill each other, and they're on two sides of like this double mirror.
Yeah, and they're looking
at each other, but it's like dude, that part was
they're looking at the reflection, but the reflection is the other person.
Yeah, and that shit's so dope. Dude. Yeah, that shit is so cool.
It was cool.
To me. Yeah.
Good movie. Would recommend it.
Yeah, if you love action movies, you would like this movie. It's fun, entertaining. It's like 2 hours and 20 minutes, but it doesn't really feel like that.
No, it doesn't. No.
Yeah.